stuff just to say stuff. As long as you're not Skip Bayless, basically, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But anyways, so obviously everyone's heard about Kyrie Irving at this point, and the entire world is talking about it. I mean, he mentioned 4 teams. I don't see him going to any of them except most likely the Knicks at this point. But people don't seem to realize that he doesn't have a no trade clause, so he doesn't get to choose at the end of the day. So, do you think he'll end up with any of those 4 teams to start?
I don't. I mean, I think like you said, the most common one and the most realistic one I would say is the Knicks. I don't see him going to San Antonio. I don't see them working anything out.
Definitely not San Antonio. I don't know who they'd give in Minnesota. And then I personally don't want him on the Heat. I don't want a guy with that kind of personality to be the best player on the team. So
yeah, the Heat would be interesting.
I mean, I'm obviously a Heat fan, but I want like a nice future. And if he's the best player on the team, and he seems to want to be, you're not going to be a championship team with him as your best player. So
right. I mean, the other teams have come, like kind of surfaced, and I think. I mean, with me, I'm never going to count the Heat out because I feel like Pat Riley will always make a move. And the thing is, like, the one thing is, if you're in Cleveland's point of view, is Miami could save Cleveland money. Zach Lowe wrote a great article today, and he included in it, like Miami would probably have to give, Dragic, a guy like Wayne Ellington, Justice Winslow. And Miami would probably take on like Iman Shumpert and Irving.
Yeah, that's the trade I saw possibly thrown around for the
Heat. And that way Cleveland could save money because they're bad into the luxury tax. I think like every million is like $4 million for them. But there's other teams that have been kind of tossed around. I mean, I've seen some things with Phoenix just because I know.
Okay, so the one I've heard, and this is the one that I've heard the most in terms of the Knicks scenario is. So it would be a 3-team trade with the Suns. And basically the Cavs would get Eric Bledsoe and Carmelo. The Knicks would get Kyrie Irving. And then the Suns would take on Kevin Love. And I mean, I just don't see what's in it for the Suns in that scenario, though, to be honest. I mean,
I've seen that trade too. Not sure how all the numbers work with that. I know Phoenix is good. I've seen a lot of things that says Phoenix wants Frank Ntilikina really bad.
Yeah, actually, they would get him too in that scenario that I saw.
Yeah. So I know he would be. I know he would have to be included, which I'm not sure if the Knicks would be interested in doing. Now, I mean, if that meant them getting Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, I think you do that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know for Cleveland if a Irving Bledsoe deal. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Eric Bledsoe. I think he's underrated for what he does. I love
Eric Bledsoe. I think he's probably one of the most overlooked guys in the entire league.
But I don't think he brings to that team what Kyrie does. I mean, it's just it's a certain ability to play next to LeBron and hit big shots and play off of LeBron's playmaking that I don't know if Eric Bledsoe could do at a level that Kyrie does it in. So yeah, I mean Phoenix, and another thing is I think Cleveland. We have to keep in mind that Cleveland, in every deal that they're going to do for Kyrie, they want to stockpile either young players, get a few veterans, and some draft picks to brace themselves for LeBron leaving.
Yeah, I don't see them getting them in that trade. Anything like that.
Yeah, well, I would say the piece that would have to be added is Josh Jackson from
they're not gonna,
Phoenix.
Phoenix is not going to give him up just for getting Kevin Love and Frank, the point guard. I can't pronounce his last name. But.
Yeah, nobody can. I don't even think I'm right. Ntilikina, I think. But yeah, I mean, and Phoenix has already been on the record saying that how excited they were that Josh Jackson was available at 4. So I don't really see them giving him up for that. And NBA teams are so high strung on the potential of guys. And Josh Jackson from GMs and inner circles definitely. People think he can be a legit NBA player, maybe even a star. So I don't think they're going to give them up for
I wouldn't even do if I were the Suns, I wouldn't do just Jackson for Irving, I don't think. I mean, like Kyrie's nice and everything, but Jackson looks like a super athletic guy who could potentially develop an offensive game and be one of the best two-way players in the entire league.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm so for the sure thing. And I like Josh Jackson. I like what he can bring to the table. I like his potential. But Kyrie Irving's 25, man, and he can and he is a proven NBA superstar. Give me him. I would say give me him. Now, in that deal, of course, you'd have to give away Bledsoe just because you can. If you can get an asset for him or a nice young player or productive role player, you do it. But I mean, when it comes to that, either way, that's not a deal that's going to happen. I don't know if
See,
you
I mean,
want to keep.
I don't know if I would call Kyrie a superstar. I think in terms of a scorer, I think he's one of the best career scorers in the entire league. He's not a great passer, and he's not a great defender, and he hasn't shown a willingness to be either one of those two things.
No, you're
So I
right.
definitely would hesitate to call him a superstar at this point.
I think his production and what he's done over the past couple of years have been magnified just because he's been playing next to LeBron, and I know his numbers on when he's on the floor and LeBron's off are like pitiful. And I think he attempts 26 shots per 36 minutes when LeBron's off the floor, which is
That's a lot.
yeah, which is ridiculous. I think there's only a number of guys in the history of the game who've done it, and one of them is Wilt Chamberlain, and we both know back then, you just
Everyone
dump
did, though.
right, you just dump the ball down to him and he scores every single time. So
I mean, also there were a lot more possessions back then too.
right, so there's a lot of different aspects to Kyrie as a whole. You want to keep touching on Phoenix? Or do you want to move to a different team?
I mean, so I'm looking at his stats right now. I mean, he had 3 years before LeBron got there. His assists got better a little bit every single season, and his turnovers sort of got better. But I mean, he still the most he's ever averaged is 6.1 assists per game, and I mean, he's averaging in his first 2 seasons like over 3 turnovers a game. He shoots okay, but I mean, not a lot of steals. You're not going to get a ton of perimeter defense, and you do have to guard Steph Curry. And I would definitely trust Eric Bledsoe a lot more guarding Steph Curry than Kyrie.
Well, and the other obvious thing is after I agree with everything you just said. But the other obvious thing is like I know it was his first 3 years in the league, but his team stunk, and I know he didn't have a lot to work with,
Yeah, but
but he had the chance to be the guy, and like with young players who are meant to kind of be the guy, you kind of see potential for them to be the guy, and you're just waiting for them to kick into that next gear. Like Kobe when he was young, you saw the rough patches, what have you, and then he had Shaq to help grow. But that's speaking of Kobe, that's the big thing, of course, surrounding Kyrie. Kobe's his idol. He could probably trying to take a similar path to Kobe. He plays with LeBron's his Shaq, and now he wants to part ways with him. Will he have the same success without LeBron? Absolutely not. I don't think that's really
he's not
heated
he's
debate.
not Kirby though. I mean, but
He's
I get it.
not.
Like I think if he had a better supporting cast, I think they're a playoff team. If you put them in Miami, they're a playoff team. They're not going to compete for the championship, but they're definitely a playoff team.
I think it would be the same thing. I mean, well, in this Eastern Conference, I mean, I think we can both say if he was on the Knicks with him, Porzingis, and their supporting guys, I could see them competing for 8th seed. They'd be in the hunt, they'd be in the running, just because the East is so weak. But yeah, you put them on Miami. You put them on Miami, and yeah, they're definitely a playoff team just because of their system, and Spoelstra has the ability to scheme, and him and Whiteside in a pick and roll, that's dangerous.
I mean, in terms of fit, the 4 teams you mentioned, I think the Spurs, in my opinion, were the best fit, just because he's the closest to Tony Parker out of the names that have sort of been thrown around. I mean, he's obviously probably a better shooter than Tony Parker. Tony Parker never really averaged a ton of assists. His role was never really to basically be just like a ball dominant point guard. I think Kyrie would thrive in a scenario where he doesn't have to be ball dominant, but he's given opportunities to score based on his teammates. I think that putting him in a sort of like what Tony Parker has done, I think that's probably his best role. I don't think he's the kind of guy that just wants to dribble all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely wants the ball in his hands a lot. Now, going down to San Antonio, that's not going to happen just because of their system and because of Kawhi Leonard. But we've already seen Kyrie can play without the ball and do some things, and he's more efficient without the ball. Playing off of say Kawhi Leonard's playmaking, as we've seen with him in Cleveland and LeBron.
Yeah, I think that San Antonio would play to Kyrie's strengths the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there's 2 other teams that have been brought up recently, and I want you to choose. Do you want the fit where he goes and he has a chance to really contend, or do you want the fun pick? You choose.
I mean, one of the ones that I was thinking was the Clippers. That's something that I think. I mean, they have some assets there, but that could be kind of interesting. But I kind of want to hear the fun one, to be honest.
Fun, Denver.
That could be interesting.
I want to see.
I
There's
love Millsap there, so I think that's actually could
yeah,
be a really nice fit there.
I do too, and let's not forget one of the most entertaining players from last year,
Oh,
especially
I
for
love
our
Jokic. I've known
team.
about Jokic since his rookie year. I mean,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
ridiculous.
I can just I can just tell I could tell you're a Jokic guy just from talking to you all these years with basketball. I can
I
tell.
mean, he's like I would say my the way I play when I play basketball is closest to him out of anyone. Like
Well,
I'm the
like
guy, like I'm making. I mean, I don't have the greatest handles, but I'm the one making behind the back passes for like assists and stuff. I mean, I
well,
just
just
remember there was one time I was playing recently where I was on a fast break, and if I there's a guy slightly ahead of me and there was a defender in front of me. If I just made a regular pass, the guy would have intercepted it. So I go behind my back, get the ball to the guy, he like lays it in. Like that's the kind of stuff I do.
there you go.
But I mean, I don't have like the greatest handles, and I'm not a great defender. I'm average, but no, I
Well,
love watching Jokic play. I love that kind of play.
yeah, no, and see the only hiccup with that is Cleveland, like I said, they're gonna want assets. They're gonna want a veteran, and they're gonna want a young player. So it's probably gonna Wilson Chandler would be included in that. And then I see Cleveland asking for both Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, and the first round pick,
I
or
wouldn't do that if I were Denver.
just Harris and Murray, and without the first round pick. But I don't know if Denver's going to let go of both of them. They're very high on
I wouldn't
Harris.
let go of Gary Harris. Gary Harris looks really good. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
he got really good just randomly. It seemed like.
Yeah, and they're very high on Jamal Murray. I could see them parting with one if that was the deal, but I don't think Cleveland's going to settle for less with this situation. So. But yeah, like I said, I would love to see Kyrie, Paul Millsap, and Jokic in a lineup. It would mean for Denver, Zach Lowe included this in his article, to kind of go scattering at the small forward position with maybe like Hernan Gomez, Will Barton, like a whole bunch of different guys because they don't have a solidified small forward. But the lineup would be extremely fun to watch.
I mean, so Millsap is one of the most underrated parts of Millsap's game is his ability to pass the ball. So I think you get. I mean, at the 4 and 5, you have Millsap and Jokic, two of the best big man passers in the game. And then you surround them with guys like Gary Harris or Kyrie, guys who could just knock down jumpers. That could be a really interesting. I mean, that could take the offense to the complete next level.
Yeah,
So that would definitely be interesting to watch.
I mean, granted, now, like I said before, I made that suggestion. Would they compete in the West? Yeah, I think they would compete in the West. I think they could push for an 8-7 seed, but I don't think they're really scaring any of the top teams in terms of eliminating them in the playoffs. Like say a Houston or a Golden State. But they could put some fear into San Antonio. I feel like
I think they could run San Antonio, tire them out a little
bit. Yeah. I feel like that would be just a fun team to watch. Now moving on to the
actual serious one, yeah.
Right, the safe pick who could continue competing for a championship. And I saw your recent video, and I kind of know your views on this team, but Boston.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't mind them. I just I don't have a vendetta against Boston or anything. Like, I don't really care about them all that much. I just don't really get what they're doing. It just seems like they don't have a strategy.
Why? What makes you say that?
Okay, so I mean, next year you're gonna have to pay Isaiah, first of all. Like, I don't think he's worth a max contract. They could have drafted Markelle Fultz this year. Instead, they decide to draft another wing. They also could have traded for Paul George. I heard that they couldn't get him because Indiana wanted Terry Rozier, and they wouldn't give him Rozier. I don't get that. Like, if you don't question their strategy after that, like, when will you? I mean, if your only thing is like you don't want to give up Terry Rozier, I feel like they're basically like hoarders, but with like assets and stuff. I just don't get what they're doing. They have enough assets to go and get an elite player. They have more assets than any other team in the entire league.
I think judging off, I mean, you're right, and it kind of got to the point with me, as I'm sure it did with you, that Danny Ainge holding on to these picks and these assets, it was kind of like pissing me off. But I think they were just with everybody else in the Paul George sweepstakes. You can't if you're not giving us your word that you're going to stay here for multiple years, we're not doing it. We're not wasting these assets on one championship run. And, at this point, nobody really knew the Kyrie thing, so who knows? I mean, Cleveland looks a lot more beatable now if they don't have Kyrie than if they do. But, I mean, I do like what they did with Gordon Hayward. I like signing him. You're right. Thomas is that's gonna be surprising, man. And the thing is, I could see Isaiah being the type of guy, like Kevin Durant did, taking a little bit less more money to, keep a
No,
good
no way,
team,
no
keep a
way. No, he's
competing
never
team.
gotten more than like $6 million a year. I
But
mean,
yeah, now
he's definitely gonna take a max.
the crazy thing is, once that talk started coming up, he went on Twitter himself and said, "Boston better be ready to back up the Brinks truck for me." And it's like, dude, like, but hey, it's his money. I'm not gonna
No,
say
but
anything
I
about it.
get it from his point of view because he's never really been paid a lot of money in the NBA, and at
Yeah,
this point, this is his perfect chance to cash in, especially with the salary cap rise. He's not. It's not like Kevin Durant where he's already gotten huge contracts. Whether or not
and
Kevin Durant's gotten like a max in this day and age, he's certainly made a ton of money in the NBA.
and you got to think all the endorsements that Kevin Durant has. Isaiah Thomas doesn't have that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, Isaiah is like. Let's just look at it. Like, I guarantee you, he's barely made any money. I'm just gonna look up his amount of money he's made in the league. It's probably like less than Evan Turner. I bet.
trying to
Let's
look
see.
up.
Yeah, Isaiah has made a total of 22 million as an NBA player,
Really,
just in contracts alone. That's like nothing for a guy that's putting up nearly 30 points per game, making 22 million in
and
six
that
seasons
was
is
in the
absolutely
MVP
nothing.
conversation this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's an MVP, but I think he's
No, I don't.
definitely
I mean, I don't either. But he was in the conversation. I mean,
yeah.
it is what.
That's yeah, and he's made his contract is less than Al Horford's is this past season. Like in 6 seasons, he's made less than Al Horford made this past year. I mean,
Yeah, it's,
I don't. Why? It's not a surprise to me when he's putting up this numbers that he's like, I need to cash in now
right.
because he just never really cashed in. So like, that's the difference between him and Durant. But
Well, and just to put like, I don't want to put Irving's name and connected to Boston without putting the other pieces that would be included in the trade. Here's what is kind of would be mentioned in it. What Boston would send Isaiah, Jay Crowder, one of their Brooklyn picks, or the Lakers King pick that they got from Philly for the deal for Markelle Fultz in exchange for Irving. Now that's a haul, but
you get any better with that though?
well, that's the thing. I mean, you have Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward next to each other. None of them are really playmakers in terms of for other people.
Not really. I mean, but yeah, neither is Isaiah. That's why I don't understand why they didn't draft Markelle Fultz at this point. It doesn't make sense to me because you have a chance to draft a guy that could be Isaiah's replacement if he walks and wants max money, which I like him as a player. I don't think he's worth the max because I don't think he gives enough on defense. And it's not his fault. He doesn't have the build for it. And I think sometimes he's a little bit ball heavy, and I don't think that's, that works in today's basketball. But they had the perfect opportunity to draft a guy that could have, sort of replaced him. And instead they draft a player at a position that now they have 5 starting caliber players at.
Well, that's another reason why I think that the draft should be after free agency, because then they don't get Tatum. If they know they're getting Gordon Hayward, they don't draft Tatum.
Yeah, that's like the NFL definitely does that way better. NFL's free agency it's like a month and a half in advance.
I agree, and I think it would definitely give teams the upper hand, and it kind of benefits everybody because then the players, the draftees, are actually going to a place where they're being benefited and that they fit into a system. Now you have Jason Tatum, maybe expected to play some stretch for same with Gordon Hayward, but that's not really their true positions.
I mean, they get killed on the boards in that scenario. Yeah. So, okay, so if we're talking Boston Celtics, what do you think their starting 5 is right now? I mean, to me, it would be
like
Isaiah,
at this moment,
maybe Marcus Smart at the 2, and then maybe it looks like they'd have to start Marcus Morris at the 4 at this point. I don't see anyone else. Start Gordon Hayward at the 3.
Yeah,
I haven't seen how good any of the other guys are at rebounding, but
no, they're gonna continue to struggle rebounding, and then they lost Amir Johnson. Obviously, he signed with Philly. But yeah,
and then Olynyk was an even better rebounder than Johnson. He's gone too. So,
yeah,
I mean, they picked up Aaron.
That was the one thing. I mean, Boston made some good moves, but I mean, in my opinion, they didn't get worse, and I think they got better. I mean, I think getting a guy like Gordon Hayward, getting a guy like Jason Tatum, if he can do anything that he showed in summer league, the progression of Jaylen Brown continuing to turn into a good NBA player, I think he has potential to be a great NBA player. I think they're gonna depend a lot on the Ante Zizic guy. To come in and be a inside presence rebounder for him, but he struggled in summer league, man. Like he got pushed around.
Yeah, everyone. It's not really.
I
So
mean,
one of the in the video I made about 3 teams that need an identity, one of the things I threw out in terms of the Celtics was, would they be able to say make a trade involving a Nets pick, either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? They'd probably more likely give up Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, those 3 assets, along with the Horford contract, and could they flip it for Anthony Davis? That's what I was talking about. I mean, I think that they have enough assets where if they stop being stingy, they could get Anthony Davis. I don't see why they couldn't. They have so many assets, and the Pelicans just have no future at this point. Like,
yeah.
Boogie's probably going to leave in free agency. Anthony Davis is gone after, his contract runs out. I think that they could at least offer – I think that if there's ever a team that could offer the Pelicans enough to give up Anthony Davis, it's them.
My only thing is, do you do that if you're the Pelicans? I know you have no future, but
it just depends on – okay, so let's say Boogie leaves and then Anthony Davis leaves. What do you have exactly? You have Drew Holiday getting paid $25 million a year to do what?
And you
pass it to no one, basically, because there's no one to pass to.
And you forgot about one important person.
Solomon Hill. Is that who I forgot about?
Well, that's one guy, but Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, I mean, he's on a 1-year deal now.
No, I hate. No, I don't want to say I hate. I can't stand the Rajon Rondo hype of the people that are living in Boston's championship days, and they still think he's a productive player. He's horrible. He's pretty much a horrible player now.
Yeah, I mean, so I was actually doing some research to try and do a video on if he fits in New Orleans. Verdict: he doesn't. Because
and they're going to try. The problem is going Holiday next to each other. It's not going to work.
Holiday's so good with the ball. I mean, Holiday's a really good. Like he's a good facilitator, and he can score with the ball in his hands. Like I tried to find scenarios in which Holiday could play off ball, but the majority of his plays come when he has the ball. I mean, he's much better he's not even a bad point guard. He's not a ball heavy point guard, but he's a playmaker. He's not a guy that is succeeds off ball.
Yeah.
So I don't see. The thing with Rondo is that even if you find a team that, let's say you surround him with 4 shooters, you can still sag off him and defend his shooters. I mean, you see it in Minnesota, and you see that it hurts Wiggins and Towns when they can sag off Ricky Rubio like that. I mean, Rondo's even worse than Rubio when it comes to offense. So I don't see how he could fit anywhere at this point.
No, he's just living on. I don't know. People are just going to keep buying him. I think he'll even get I think he could even get a contract after this for a 1-year deal, and I don't know why.
1-year deals. He doesn't seem like a dumb guy either. He probably at least saved or invested his money. So
no, I mean even on the court, he's a genius basketball mind type. That's why him and Rick Carlisle butted heads, just because he saw something different. But I mean, Rick Carlisle's the coach, and he's one of the best coaches that have ever been in the freaking game. So you listen to him, but. I mean,
every time I think of players going bankrupt, I immediately think of Delonte West and how dumb he was. I mean, that guy's the example of why you want to figure out your finances when you get into the league, because he's the kind of guy that just burns it all. And Delonte West is just, I don't know. Anyways, I always like talking about him.
How do we get?
Do you think Rondo is just a guy that's been phased out at this point?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to sound standoffish, but I don't even want to talk about Rondo. There's one more team that I wanted to bring up for Irving, and again, I'm going a lot off the Low article just because he brought up a lot of good points. He mentions the Milwaukee Bucks.
I heard that too. I actually heard about that.
And he included that the Bucks would possibly give up Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and 2 unprotected first rounders.
I don't think that would be a bad deal for the Bucks.
No, I don't either. Now for the Cavs, I don't think it's that great, just because those guys can't.
Those people are not anything like what getting Bledsoe would be.
Right, or have the production or the threat of what Kyrie can do.
Yeah.
It's pretty much some good solid role players. Man, Middleton's a good player, but just think and then he mentions about Irving in a pick and roll scenario with Giannis and also with Thon Maker on the floor and whatnot. Just
I love the Bucks. Probably watching my video. So
the Bucks are going to be a fun team to watch, and I think they'll be a top Eastern Conference team in the next two years. I think next year they'll make their jump, and then the year after that they're coming.
See, I think if you're the Cavs and you make that move, that's basically just hitting the restart button. I mean,
Yeah.
Like if you get Bledsoe and you get Bledsoe and Carmelo in that deal, you're still looking to make the finals. You get Middleton, Brogdon, and two unprotected firsts. It's rebuild, clearly. It's
Yeah.
a rebuild right there. I mean, you're not getting anything that's going to continue to help you compete. I mean, Middleton's a nice player. Don't get me wrong, I like Middleton, but he's hit his ceiling, and his ceiling is not anywhere near Kyrie. I mean, his ceiling's not anywhere near Eric Bledsoe or anything like that. And then Brogdon looks like a nice role player, but I don't think he's already 25. I mean, he's already like older. Even though he was a rookie, he's an older rookie. So I don't think he's gonna get a ton better.
Yeah, no,
I
I mean,
mean,
I think he's going to be a solid, productive guy that can come off the bench and play in the league a long time. And I know we say this for a lot of players, but he could flourish on on a San Antonio. Like
yeah,
just
I think he can flourish in Milwaukee. I think
no, I do
he's a
too.
nice shooter and he's a nice defender. And if Giannis is handling the ball, he could just he can spot up and play off ball, which is really nice.
Yeah, he just can't be expected to do a lot. Just kind of play his role and make plays when he's called upon, and he did a good job of it last year.
So if Kyrie gets traded to Milwaukee, do you think there's a Matthew Dellavedova reunion in Cleveland?
God,
That would be kind of interesting. I mean, that'd be one way to get his contract. It's like I don't want him anymore. You got to take him back.
oh man, no, that would. I don't think. I think if they got Dellavedova back, and then LeBron leaves next summer, which I think he's going to, that Cleveland would just implode.
That would be. I mean, everyone just loved him because he like basically just physically assaulted Steph in that game and got away with it. I mean, it's just you shouldn't give what did they give him 4 years, 38 million to a guy who's uncoordinated. I mean,
Yeah.
like
For
he's
what it's
like basically
for what it's worth, though, when I covered the Wizards Cavs game, Dellavedova is a lot like bigger than you think he is. Like
is he?
he looks little out there, but like when I was standing next to him, and for those watching, I'm about 6'1", 6'2". Yeah, he's got like he's not. I mean, of course, he's not like bulky, but he's just cut up, and you can tell he's got some power behind him.
Yeah, that's because he doesn't have anything else. He just got put a
Right.
little bit of strength and
He's just a
I mean
junkyard
I'm
dog.
probably way bigger than I'm under 200 pounds, so I'm like 195, but I'm 6'5" and a half basically. So I'd definitely be taller than him. How tall is he?
I think he's about 6'3", 6'3",
Yeah,
maybe he's listed at 6'4".
he's not super
I wouldn't
short,
even
but
give him that though.
he's not super short or anything. Isn't he the leading scorer from his college of all
Oh,
time?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure he
Yeah,
is.
he
He's a legend.
averaged 14.2 points per game in 4 years at his college. Oh my god, even his college career is awful. Anyways, he's one of those guys that's just he really cares and he'll try, but that's like all you're gonna get basically.
Yeah, I mean he did great for that Cleveland team. Just come in and be be a gnat in Steph Curry's ear and just continue to get on his nerves and be really physical with him around screens and pick up fouls and just make him tired on when he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah, he's kind of like the poor man's Patrick Beverly a little bit. It seems like Patrick Beverly is basically the similar type of player, except
Very poor
more
man.
skilled. But so I wanted to talk about the Clippers. I wanted to see if like what you think about that. Do you think he can end up there? I mean, they definitely have some assets now. Like they definitely have some pieces that they could trade. I mean, I liked Decker his rookie year. I liked Montrezl Harrell last season as well. I think he put up some, looked like he had a good solid future. I mean, they have Beverly obviously.
They have pieces. I think it would be a good move for Los Angeles, but like I said before, and I'm just going off, Windhorst and guys who have heard from, close sources to the team. Cleveland ain't settling for an average deal. They want a haul, and they want as much as they can get. I don't think a Sam Decker, Harrell, Beverly, and maybe some other cool pieces. I don't think that's
I mean, like Kyrie's like the reason. Kyrie's the reason that LeBron was able to win in this second season back with the Cavs because he actually was able to kind of help LeBron out. I mean,
now in terms of your question of how he fits on the Clippers, we'll just play that game. I think he fits well because he's shown that he can play off the ball, and I think if I wrote an article a couple weeks ago about I think Clippers are going down a very dark road. I think they are in for a very bad next 4 or 5 years. Just I don't see any bright spots for him. But we can get into that later. But I think they have to hand the keys to Blake Griffin and let him be the point forward pretty much going forward, or having a lot of possessions with the ball and playmaking, which he didn't have with Chris Paul. Kyrie, as we mentioned earlier in this podcast, can play off the ball and do it successfully and still score. So I think it's a fit there. And then, of course, you put him into a pick and roll scenario with him and Blake and him and DeAndre. Now, he's not the passer that Chris Paul was, but he can definitely make some plays off of it.
Yeah. I mean, people also criticize Blake Griffin for getting injured a lot. He didn't originally have that problem. He played 82 games in the year.
He's having freak injuries, though. It's not like he continues to roll an ankle. Or it's a whole bunch of different things, and it's just happening.
Also, one of them was him punching somebody. Like, that was like right. I mean, that's something that's like that's easily preventable if you're just not stupid. I mean,
right. But then again, we have to be very careful watching him this year. You know, he's not going to come back till December. He just got that. You know, that metal plate in his foot. So, like, you never know how guys are going to react off of that.
Especially a guy with athleticism.
And the comparison I've been hearing a lot that I'm coming around to and I'm really agreeing with, you probably already know, Amari Stoudemire. Like a guy who had all the tools but just could never get right.
Stoudemire was better than Blake Griffin. But, no, I get it. I get it.
I think as a big man, yeah, but as a playmaker, Blake is a better Blake is.
Well, I mean, when you have Steve Nash, and you know, you don't really. I mean, Stoudemire was a better. I mean, everyone criticizes Stoudemire's defense. He wasn't. I think he was average, but Blake's below average. Stoudemire was a better scorer, in my opinion. Slightly. I mean, Blake showed the ability to rebound when he needed to, but now he doesn't need to because DeAndre does it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Stoudemire in his prime was like considered to be like in the running for like top power forward in the league. I feel like a lot of people would have agreed with that.
Oh yeah,
obviously,
Stoudemire was a freaking beast, man. Like,
oh yeah,
his days in Phoenix, he was unstoppable almost.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy. He shot a high percentage. He made his free throws. I mean, there was a season where he averaged over 2 blocks a game. I mean, that's pretty decent. I mean, whether or not he was a terrific defender, I find okay. Another thing that annoys me about criticizing Stoudemire's defense is the Suns in general didn't play defense on that team. I mean, they were basically D'Antoni's like back. You know, it's like the Rockets now. It's like I guess it's like the Nuggets now. You know, it's all fast paced, 7 seconds or less, and they didn't play a lot of defense. But
right.
I mean, so how do you feel about DeAndre Jordan then in terms of the Clippers? Sorry if we're going off on tangents. I kind of want to.
No, it's cool. Yeah, no, we have our we haven't talked in a while. That was my big point about my article that I wrote, and just how I feel like they're in a dark place just because DeAndre is a free agent next year, and with losing Chris Paul, I mean, look, I like DeAndre Jordan as an NBA player. I think he's a very valuable NBA player. But if you have a point guard like Chris Paul, if you have a very good passing point guard like Chris Paul, he's not going to get the ball on the block and make a post move. He's not going to step out to 15 feet and hit a jumper. He's specifically lob and block. That's your 2 jobs, and that's what you're going to do. And he does it at an elite level. But I don't think without Chris Paul and without Clippers making any great moves, what entices him to stay in Los Angeles besides the money? And he was already close to leaving when he was a free agent last time. Of course, the whole big thing with Dallas when the Clippers blocked him in his house to sign the contract. So why wouldn't he be enticed to leave then? Blake signs long term. I don't really know if any stars want to go play in Los Angeles with Blake per se, especially with all the hype that the Lakers are getting. I don't know. I don't see the Clippers' road for the future being bright.
I mean, I definitely don't see. I mean, I definitely don't like see that. I don't think they're going to be a top team, or at least considered as a top team anymore. I mean, if you look at DeAndre Jordan's numbers before and after Chris Paul, I mean, he's led the league in field goal percentage 5 seasons. All 5 were with Chris Paul. He had Chris Paul for basically all of his best seasons were with Chris Paul. Before Chris Paul got there, he was not really anything. I mean, so he's made a career off being unskilled and super athletic, and I think with Chris Paul gone, if Blake Griffin is unable to do what Chris Paul did in terms of the lob type stuff, I think DeAndre Jordan's just going to look silly out there. He's just
Yeah.
completely unskilled. I mean, he's a really athletic guy. He's got some pretty good defensive instincts. But I mean, even a guy like Andre Drummond has some offensive scoring ability. I mean, Rudy Gobert is not a terrific offensive player. He hits his free throws, so you can keep him in there late game. DeAndre Jordan doesn't do that. I mean, Rudy Gobert hits like 65% of his free throws. So I just don't see a use for DeAndre unless he has a guy like Chris Paul on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a there's definitely a market for DeAndre Jordan. Like, don't get anything twisted in the NBA. I mean, he's an all NBA center. But I just feel like with what we have to realize is Blake Griffin, like I said before, isn't coming back until mid-December, at the earliest. Can the Clippers stay afloat without Blake, no CP, with a whole bunch of role players, depending pretty much on DeAndre and a whole bunch of average Joes, to stay in the pack? No, like you said, and I don't even see when Blake comes back. He's going to take him a minute to get back to 100%, and I don't even know if he's at the top of his game. I don't even see the Clippers making the playoffs with all the other teams in the West getting so much better, with Minnesota, Denver, a lot of teams that we've talked about. I don't see the Clippers making the playoffs
this year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
OKC might do a little bit better with Paul George.
I agree. I think OKC is going to be one of the best defensive teams in
but if Lou Williams makes his first shot, then it's over. Have you heard about that?
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard about that thing where it's like, if he makes his first shot, he's ridiculous, and if he misses, he's just It's kind of like Nick Young type stuff too. But I mean, I just looking at the Clippers roster, they have it's a deep roster in terms of role players. Without Blake, I don't see how they'll even come close to. Everyone still pegs them as a playoff team. I guess we'll see. I definitely don't think they're the worst team in the West just because Chris Paul left. But I think at a certain point they're gonna have to hit the rebuild button, and I think giving money to Blake is a sign that they're not ready to do that.
No, I mean, and I think it's tough. I mean, you need a star, you need someone to attract to come and play with. But I mean, I don't know. Just to me, Blake Griffin isn't that guy. Blake Griffin isn't a guy that people are looking at and saying, "Oh, I want to go play with him." I just don't. I just don't see it being that way. I know Chris Paul. You can't give him a max. You can't give him a max because he's so old. He's old, and that contract would go until he's 38. But more people would be willing to go play with him because he's a distributor rather than Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I mean,
and the last 3 years, real quick, I didn't mean to cut you off. Last 3 years, he's played 67 games, 35 games, 61 games.
Yeah, but the 35 one was because he punched a guy in the face, I think.
I mean, I know it was weird circumstances, but still, it's 3 straight years. Who's to say all of a sudden he corrects that and he plays, 5 straight 82-game seasons? I don't see it. And, of course, he's not going to do that this year.
I mean, also, his game is based off athleticism, and those guys get phased out quicker than the guys who aren't based on athleticism. So his game is based on just being a high flyer. I mean, he can shoot the ball a little bit.
Breaking news on the podcast. Derrick Rose signs with Cleveland.
Really? I'm going to look this up now. This is – wow. Has he's 100% signed?
Yep, Shams just tweeted it.
Okay. Did Woj tweet it, I wonder?
No, but I'm going with Shams is
Which
incredible.
Who are you talking about exactly?
Shams Charania from the Vertical pretty much took over for Verge. I mean, Woj, I'm sorry. But yeah, that'll just be probably a 1 year, $2 million deal.
He passed his physical, so that's a start.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely that. Do you think that then means that they don't need a point guard back if they trade Kyrie? Do you think that means that like they no longer need like somebody like Eric Bledsoe in the deal?
No, I mean, look, I was a big D Rose guy, and I like all that he battled through with his knee injuries. He's not anywhere near the player that he was. He doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, he's better than. like J.R. Smith is at shooting guard. Do you think they then go after a shooting guard?
No.
Okay.
I'm taking JR over Derrick Rose as shooting. Are you talking about playing Rose at the
I'm
two?
talking about, would you rather have Eric Bledsoe and J.R. or Derrick Rose and a upgrade over J.R.? Like, who do you value more, Rose at point guard or J.R. at shooting guard?
I'm taking JR, dude. I
Really?
mean, I know it sounds crazy, but just his size, that's another guy. When I saw him in real life, like at the game, and got up and close, with him in the locker room, just he's a lot taller than you think. Like he's a legit 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah. I mean, but his defense in the finals was abysmal. I mean,
Yeah, I mean here's the question then. It depends on who that upgrade is. It depends on who that upgrade is from JR. Like that would be
so
my
if we go
decision.
over the teams, I see. Like who the Heat starting shooting guard is Waiters. So do you think LeBron wants? LeBron already didn't want to play with Waiters once,
Absolutely not. No.
and then the Suns. I mean, I don't see a team that has a shooting guard to give them, to be honest, or at least not in the four that he mentioned. I guess the Denver deal. I mean, the Denver definitely has a bunch of Jamal Murray and Gary Harris are both shooting guards. I mean, I like both of them probably. I definitely like Gary Harris more than Jr. I don't know about Murray yet, but
Oh yeah.
and then trying to think the Celtics. That could be interesting. I think I don't know. Do they get Isaiah in that deal? How would they make that work? In terms of contract, that would be the problem with the Celtics. It's because Isaiah is not being paid very much, and the Cavs are already like way over the luxury. I guess that would help them. I wonder what is the Celtics financial situation then?
I'd have to look it up. I don't think they're
Because I know that the contract disparity between Kyrie and Isaiah is enough where Boston would need to give up a player with a bigger contract. So,
no.
hold on, I can't hear
It'll
you.
be updated with all the
Okay, there you
moves
go.
that they made.
I can hear you now.
So right now
That's interesting
they're
to me.
only
I wonder if
right now they're only
so.
at,
I guess,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Right now they're only at 68 million. But that's without Gordon Hayward. There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean they're still
I
willing
don't
to
know.
do it.
Hoops. I'm looking at Hoops Hype right now. There's not a lot of updated. Roster additions. So
Yeah, I mean, so what was Gordon Hayward's deal? It was like
it was
4 years, like
max.
130 million or something. So that would put them at around over 100 at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say they're close to it. They don't have a whole lot of room to play with.
Yeah, I mean that's why they had to trade Avery Bradley. He wasn't even on that big of a contract. Avery Bradley was making like 10 million this year, and he wasn't making a ton. But yet Marcus Morris was making 5 million. So I mean, it was basically just chipping away.
Trying
Like
to
it's
pull
not
up an
even really
updated.
showed that much contract.
Trying to pull up an updated.
The thing with the Celtics right now is that a lot of their guys were on pretty small deals. I mean, Crowder was on a pretty small deal. Bradley and Isaiah Thomas were all on small deals. And then he decided to just basically open up the bank for Horford. So that's where most of their cap problems lie, is in that contract. So they have to find a way to get rid of that contract if they want some sort of financial stability. So that's why I brought up, the idea of an Anthony Davis trade. Can you offer the Pelicans enough of assets to where not only will they give you Davis, but they'll take Horford off your hands?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that Anthony Davis might be the perfect target for them.
I'm looking at an updated cap sheet. And if I'm reading it right, I think Boston's actually over 6 million.
Over the cap?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the worst, though. That's not a ton.
Yeah, over 6. They're over
like,
6 million. And they probably will, they can release or waive just a couple of no-name guys that they have and try to clear out some space. But
I feel like the Blazers cap situation is basically a comedy at this point. It's really funny. I mean, like half of their guys that are taking up their cap room are like being paid like ridiculous amounts for not doing anything.
Oh yeah,
like the Blazers have the worst one, but
yeah, Allen Crabbe, Evan Turner, but yeah,
I mean, so I don't know. It depends on if Boston wants to go over the luxury tax too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of
It is a big market, so but I mean, is it worth it just to get Kyrie instead of Isaiah? especially since see, this is why they should have drafted Fultz, because if you want to fix your cap situation, step one, draft the best player in the draft to replace the guy that you don't want to give the max money to, right?
Right.
So that's why I just don't get it. That's why I'm so critical of them. Like I think that Danny Ainge has been nice in the past, but if there's one thing we've learned from Phil Jackson in New York, it's that you can't keep giving guys passes because they did well in the past. I
No,
mean,
I agree. I was frustrated with Boston when traded because I thought it was a good position for Fultz too.
yeah, I mean, like I like Tatum. I think Tatum looked really good in summer league, but again, that's why I think free agency should happen. I mean, I agree with you on that because you sign Gordon Hayward, then you keep your pick and draft Fultz most likely.
Yep.
So
It makes things easier for a lot of teams, and it's beneficial to the draft picks as well.
yeah, I mean, it also I feel like from what I've heard, everyone's saying the Kyrie thing should have come out before the draft. I've also heard that this has been in the Cavs organization for weeks and just got leaked recently.
July 7th, Irving
Yeah.
came to him because Cleveland was mad that he didn't bring it up before the draft because they could probably.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that doesn't change anything. Yeah, I mean, if they had known that he wanted to be traded, they could have used him in like a Paul George deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they could have done a whole lot with them. Yeah, with that, you know what I mean. They could dangle him in front of the face of a lot of teams, and they would bite.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't.
Any final thoughts? Because yeah, I want to keep this around an hour.
Yeah, man, you're good. No, I'm excited to see what folds. A hot take about now. Everybody is saying that Kyrie's definitely going to get traded sometime. What's the percentage that we see him in a Cavs jersey to start the next?
I think 0. I read an article or I saw something today that says that they're now like definitely going to trade him because they don't trust him, basically. And I think that, in my opinion, the most likely scenario is still Bledsoe and Carmelo to the Cavs, Kyrie to the Knicks, and Love and Frank, the point guard, to the Suns. That seems like the most balanced thing that I've heard so far. That's like the most reasonable thing that I've heard so far. Like that makes sense for all the teams, sorta.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you're looking at every deal that they could make in terms of benefiting every party in the deal, because usually in a 3-team trade, one team gets screwed. I don't really think any team's getting screwed in terms of where they're trying to go in that deal.
I mean, I think the Suns at least get a little younger at point guard, even if they have to absorb Kevin Love's contract. But yeah, I think everyone at least I think not only that, but I think it will. I don't necessarily think everyone's getting like better players, but I think it'll definitely help the situations because I think now there's New York and Cleveland are both toxic situations, and then the Suns obviously want to move on from Bledsoe, and I want Bledsoe to get a chance to win because he's never had that opportunity. So I'd like to see Bledsoe somewhere else too.
Baby LeBron could play with LeBron.
Yeah, mini LeBron and big LeBron. Anyways, thanks for coming on today. I'm glad we got to get this stream going, and I miss you, man. I miss talking basketball with you and stuff. So maybe we'll be able to do that soon.
Hey, it was fun, man. Yeah, we'll definitely after the Kyrie saga ends and we end up seeing where he goes, let's do a little breakdown of how he's going to fit and what Cleveland got for him.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on.
Cool, Rob. Thank you.
All right. See you guys later. Leave a like if you enjoyed the stream, all that stuff, and have a good day.